Have you ever witnessed a moment when deep-seated prejudice blinds someone so completely that they fail to see the truth staring them in the face? This is one of those stories. A dramatic encounter where old-fashioned racism collides with unexpected authority, turning the tables in an instant. It was a brisk, clear afternoon in the heart of downtown when Ebony Wallace pulled up to the Grand Meridian Hotel. The hotel, a venerable establishment with its grand façade, ornate carvings, and luxurious interiors, had long been a symbol of tradition and exclusivity. Ebony, an elegant black woman in her early 40s, had recently acquired the hotel. Determined to experience the establishment as a guest, she dressed down to blend in while observing the service firsthand. Clad in a tailored coat, subtle jewelry, and carrying a modest overnight bag, Ebony stepped through the revolving doors with quiet purpose, ready to test the true nature of the hotel's hospitality. As she approached the front desk, the atmosphere was one of routine indifference. A young receptionist, his uniform crisply ironed, but his eyes betraying uncertainty, greeted her with a rehearsed smile. "Good afternoon, ma'am. How may I assist you today?" he asked in a tone that suggested he was reading from a script. Ebony returned the smile politely. "I'd like to check in for tonight. I made a reservation under Wallace," she stated calmly. The receptionist's smile faltered and his eyes narrowed as he hesitated. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't seem to have any reservation by that name in our system," he replied, his voice tinged with disbelief. Ebony's heart skipped a beat, but she maintained her composure. "That's odd," she said, her tone cool yet measured. "I booked it this morning and received a confirmation email." "Please check again." The receptionist fumbled with his keyboard, his fingers hesitating over the keys as he double-checked the reservation list. "Ma'am, are you sure you're at the Grand Meridian Hotel? We don't have any record of a reservation for someone with your name," he said, his words growing uncertain. Before Ebony could respond, a taller, middle-aged man in an immaculate suit emerged from a side office. "Good afternoon, Miss Wallace," he introduced himself with forced cordiality. "I'm Reginald Hayes, the guest relations manager. I will personally look into this matter." His eyes flickered with an inscrutable mix of irritation and curiosity as he stepped behind the desk. Ebony held his gaze steadily. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I trust you'll find the error promptly," she replied. Reginald's fingers danced over the keyboard for a long moment before he finally sighed. "It appears there is indeed no record of your reservation," he said, his tone now laced with a hint of condescension. "Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding." Ebony's eyes darkened slightly as she leaned forward. "I assure you, there is no mistake. I made the reservation myself. Could you please verify it against your confirmation system?" Reginald glanced around at his colleagues, whose uneasy expressions betrayed their discomfort. "Miss Wallace, might it be possible that you've confused our hotel with another establishment?" he suggested, the implication hanging heavily in the air. A murmur rippled among the staff. Ebony's voice cut through the whispers. "I am very much aware of where I am, and if you would like clarification, I can provide you with the confirmation email." With deliberate calm, she reached into her bag and retrieved a tablet, tapping it to display an email with the hotel's logo, the reservation details, and her name clearly printed. The receptionist's eyes widened, and even Reginald's confident demeanor faltered as he scrutinized the screen. This is indeed our hotel's reservation system," he stammered. I apologize, Miss Wallace." But before he could continue, the tension escalated as another voice joined in. From behind the front desk, a female staff member, her posture stiff and her expression defensive, interjected sharply. "We don't usually accommodate reservations like this. There must be a mistake." Her tone was curt and dismissive. Ebony's patience, already stretched thin by the earlier exchanges, now snapped. "Mistake? I assure you, there is no mistake," she said firmly, her voice rising with controlled emotion. "I booked this room, and I expect to be treated as any other guest." The room fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the sound of keyboards and shuffling papers as the staff struggled to regain composure. "Miss Wallace," Reginald attempted to salvage the situation, "please, allow me a moment to confer with higher management." He stepped away, leaving Ebony standing at the desk, her eyes fixed on the staff who now exchanged furtive glances and whispered among themselves. The receptionist, his face reddening, tried again to input her details into the system. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it still isn't coming up," he said, his voice trembling with uncertainty. At that moment, the hotel lobby door swung open, and a well-dressed man entered. He carried an air of authority and confidence that immediately commanded attention. "Excuse me," he said to the receptionist, his tone brisk. "There seems to be a problem here. Miss Wallace, I presume?" The man's eyes met Ebony's, and for a brief moment there was a spark of recognition. Ebony frowned, confused. "Yes, I am Ebony Wallace. And you are?" she asked, her tone cautious yet curious. "I'm Marcus King, the new general manager," he announced, extending a hand. His voice was steady, and his gaze was direct and respectful. The staff immediately straightened, and even Reginald, now returning from his earlier conversation, looked startled. "New general manager?" he echoed, his tone betraying disbelief. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I was appointed just last week. I'm here to ensure that everything runs smoothly and that our guests are treated with the respect they deserve." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Ebony's eyes softened slightly, and a small smile played on her lips. "Thank you, Mr. King. I appreciate your prompt intervention," she said. Marcus turned to Reginald, his tone measured but firm. "Mr. Hayes, it appears that there was a serious error in handling this reservation. I would like a full explanation now." Reginald, caught off guard, stammered, I'm sorry, Mr. King. It seems we had an oversight." The female staff member at the front desk glared, her defensiveness evident as she muttered, "Oversight? More like standard procedure, as always." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Standard procedure? If you are suggesting that discrimination is acceptable procedure, then you have a lot to answer for." He turned to Ebony. "Miss Wallace, please allow me to escort you to your suite. We will rectify this immediately." Ebony nodded gracefully. "Thank you, Mr. King. I expect nothing less than exemplary service, as is fitting for this establishment." As Marcus led Ebony through the opulent corridors of the hotel, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The once tense mood began to dissolve as whispers of disapproval spread among the staff. In a quiet alcove near the reception area, the receptionist muttered, "I can't believe they treated her that way," while another employee shook her head in dismay. The incident was clearly a wake-up call. Inside a spacious, elegantly decorated suite on the top floor, Marcus paused at the door. "Miss Wallace, this is your suite. I trust you will find it comfortable," he said with a courteous smile. Ebony stepped inside, surveying the luxurious room with a discerning eye. "It is indeed lovely," she remarked, her voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. "However, I must insist that an investigation be launched into the events at the front desk. I will not tolerate any form of discrimination under my watch." Marcus nodded firmly. "Rest assured, Miss Wallace, I will personally see to it that appropriate measures are taken and that our staff undergoes comprehensive sensitivity training." Their eyes met in a silent understanding, a shared commitment to fairness and a promise of change. In the moments following the confrontation at the front desk, Ebony Wallace took a solitary walk along the hotel's long, dimly lit corridor. She paused at a series of ornate, gilded mirrors that reflected her determined expression and the lingering echoes of discrimination that had permeated the day. The polished wood panels and vintage portraits seemed to whisper secrets of bygone eras, when privilege reigned unchecked and prejudice was the norm. Ebony felt a surge of resolve build within her, each step a quiet rebellion against the injustice she had experienced. The air was heavy with a mixture of regret and anticipation, as she recalled the dismissive tones and skeptical glances that had marred her check-in. Yet amid that bleak atmosphere, she found a spark of hope in the possibility of change. With every stride, she imagined a future where equality was more than an aspiration, where every guest, regardless of background, received the respect they deserved. In that reflective solitude, Ebony not only reaffirmed her commitment to transforming the Grand Meridian Hotel, but also recognized her own role as an agent of progress in a world ready for renewal. This powerful moment ignited determination beyond measure and hope for tomorrow. Later that evening, as the hotel's grand lobby emptied and night fell, Marcus convened a meeting with the entire staff in the richly appointed conference room. The air was heavy with tension and apprehension. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice resonating in the quiet room, Today we witnessed an unacceptable lapse in judgment. Our guests expect and deserve the highest standard of service, regardless of who they are. He paused to let his words sink in. We are a team and our reputation depends on our ability to treat everyone with dignity. Discrimination in any form has no place here. A timid voice broke the silence. Did you subscribe? Did you like this video? It asked. Okay, it didn't, but we do. If your answer is no to any of those two questions, we would appreciate it if you make it into a yes. For those who didn't catch on, you can do that by subscribing and liking. Now let's see what really was said by the timid voice. But sir, what if we misunderstood the situation? Asked a junior staff member, his eyes downcast. Marcus's gaze was stern yet compassionate. There is no excuse for bias. It is not a matter of misunderstanding. It is a matter of respect and decency. Starting tomorrow, we will implement mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for all employees. A murmur of agreement swept through the room, though some faces still bore expressions of unease and guilt. Marcus continued, I want each of you to reflect on your actions today. Ask yourselves, did you serve our guest with the respect she deserves, or did you let prejudice cloud your judgment? This hotel stands for excellence, and excellence is built on the foundation of equality. I expect a full report on today's incident by morning, and I assure you, any further lapse in judgment will be dealt with severely. Outside the meeting room, Ebony retreated to her private office, a space of quiet elegance overlooking the city skyline. Sitting at her mahogany desk, she reviewed the documents that detailed the reservation error. This place was once a symbol of exclusivity, she mused quietly, but it must evolve to reflect the values of the times. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Thank you for your courage today. We will make things right. A small smile graced her lips as she replied, I believe in change, Marcus. Let's build a future where everyone is valued. The following morning, the repercussions of the previous day's events had already spread throughout the community. Local media picked up the story, and soon the Grand Meridian Hotel became the center of a larger conversation about race, accountability, and the future of hospitality. In one televised interview, Marcus King spoke passionately. Today we begin a new chapter, not just for our hotel but for the entire industry. Discrimination will no longer be tolerated, and every person who walks through our doors will be treated with the respect they deserve. Over the next several days, a series of training sessions were held. Staff members were encouraged to share personal stories and confront their own biases. Even Reginald, who had been at the center of the earlier debacle, began to show genuine remorse. I am truly sorry for my behavior, he confided quietly to a colleague one afternoon. I never realized how deeply ingrained my assumptions were. His admission, though soft-spoken, signaled a turning point, a willingness to change that many had not expected. Ebony took it upon herself to visit various departments of the hotel, engaging in candid conversations with employees at all levels. One morning, she gathered a group of front desk staff in a small briefing room. Your actions today have defined the soul of this establishment, she told them. We must all work together to create an environment where every guest feels welcome. It starts with acknowledging our past mistakes and committing to do better. Her words, delivered with both empathy and authority, resonated deeply with the group, many of whom had long harbored doubts, but now felt inspired to change. That afternoon, during a town hall meeting with staff and local community leaders, Ebony reiterated her vision. This isn't merely a business turnaround, she explained. It is a commitment to a future where equality and respect are not just ideals, but practices embedded in every interaction. The meeting ended with a standing ovation. In that moment, as the Grand Meridian Hotel's halls echoed with hopeful chatter, the old prejudices began to fade, replaced by a promise of a more inclusive future. As dust settled over the city, Ebony returned to her office and penned a heartfelt letter addressed to every member of the hotel family. Every challenge we face is an opportunity, she wrote, and I am proud of each of you for stepping forward to make this hotel a beacon of justice and hospitality. Let this letter serve as a reminder that change is possible when we confront our biases and commit to doing better. Her words, filled with conviction and compassion, would go on to inspire not only the hotel staff, but the community at large. In the weeks that followed, the Grand Meridian Hotel's transformation became a beacon of hope. Guests remarked on the noticeably warmer service, and employees began to share stories of personal growth and renewed commitment. Marcus King organized monthly open forums where staff could discuss challenges and celebrate progress. Even Reginald participated, openly addressing his past mistakes and outlining his plans for continuous improvement. One day, as Ebony walked through the lobby, no longer incognito but proudly in her role as owner, a young receptionist greeted her with genuine warmth. "Good afternoon, Ms. Wallace. Welcome back," she said, her smile unforced and sincere. Ebony replied, "Thank you. I'm pleased to see the positive changes taking root here." The brief exchange spoke volumes. It was a quiet but powerful testament to the progress that had been made. At a celebratory event marking what Marcus called the new era of hospitality, Ebony took the stage before an audience of staff, guests, and community leaders. "Today," she declared, "we celebrate not just a building or a business, but a renewed commitment to justice and equality. Every challenge we have overcome has brought us closer to a future where every person is treated with the dignity they deserve." Applause filled the room, and even those who had once harbored prejudiced assumptions wore expressions of sincere contrition and hope. As the evening wound down, guests mingled and shared their own stories of overcoming adversity. The hotel's transformation had become a symbol of what could be achieved when courage met accountability. In private conversations that night, many staff members expressed gratitude for Ebony's bold intervention. "You've given us a second chance," one employee whispered. "Now we can truly change for the better." Before the night ended, Ebony gathered with her core management team in a quiet lounge. "We must remain vigilant," she cautioned, "for change is an ongoing journey. Our commitment to fairness and equality must never waver." Her words resonated deeply, setting a tone of accountability and hope for the future. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and transformation. Remember, sometimes a single act of courage can redefine an entire institution, and perhaps even an entire community. So did you ever find yourself in a situation remotely similar to this one? Did someone regret not knowing who you are? Let us know your story in the comments below.